Just recap what we found in our economist poll. That is, we're expecting moderating growth, possibly led by domestic consumption and exports. Investments and infrastructure may slow. The corruption crackdown will continue, and state-owned enterprises reforms will roll out. Let's get some perspective back to our panel of guests: LIU BAOCHEng from the University of International Business Economics, political economist LAURENCE BRAHM, and of course our veteran reporter Guan Xin. So again, I'm going to ask you first, Guan Xin, what sort of economic growth range are we expecting and why?
Oh, I agree with our economist poll there, and I think the government will do what they could to maintain the economic stability, and that means the growth rate will be kept steady, somewhere between 7 to 7.5% this year. There's certainly some pressure from the industrial overcapacity and also some financial risks from the local government, but also there is a huge potential from the urbanization process, upgrading of consumption and industrial upgrading as well. So, but I think the important thing is, I think the government will downplay the importance of GDP numbers this year, because other matters such as the environment, the social equality will be given higher priority. We know that the Chinese government has already started to evaluate an official's performance by other standards such as curbing pollution, and that is a good start.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because that is something, Laurence, that you're working with the Ministry of the Environment on, right? Changing the metrics to value or evaluate government performance to include the environment.
For so many years now, at least a decade, a government official was promoted based on how much GDP was under their local authority. And
so get the steel furnaces.
It was just creating a lot of polluting industries, a lot of redundant industries, and the whole notion of GDP, when you add up the actual costs to environment, to water security, food security, health of the population, if you actually factor that in, you don't have GDP 8% or more. You have negative growth. I mean, the cost of that ultimately has to be borne by the government, and it's then returned to the taxpayer. It goes on to companies, it's hitting the private sector, and it's hitting the individual citizen who has to pay for it at the end. So,
but again, you also create GDP by paying these prices.
Well, exactly. But we
that's the role of economist.
We need a new matrix. I think that is a consensus that's coming out across the board, and that matrix may be very different from the classic GDP. And we're now calling it GDP plus health, environment, and the social welfare system.
So it's not living standard, but really quality of life.
Quality rather than quantity.
Exactly.
And that's, I think, going to be a new creator of jobs and a new creator of a different kind of growth. A different kind of growth in all kinds of sectors. Even you think about the room we're in, so many of the lights in this room are wasting electricity. The technology exists right now, the products to be able to have lights that save 80% of that. And so many methods in so many areas, water controls, recycling, these are opportunities.
And there's a limit on such growth model because resources are becoming increasingly
scarce.
Yeah,
Professor
expensive.
Liu, just away from the environment topic, I know Laurence can talk about this at length, but what are the most urgent financial reforms that you see being put in place this year?
Again, it's really how to really identify the correct role between the government direction, particularly over those primarily state-owned banks, because
everyone's worried about debt in China, right?
Right,
as we heard from.
If you read the Fortune 500 for this year, you know, Chinese banks, they are the most profitable. But how do they get these profits? Through efficiency, through service, or through monopoly? So, and these issues need to be tackled with, and also there's the more private banking industry, the more private funds can really penetrate into the whole pie of the Chinese financial market, and in the meantime we are going to see more liberalized interest rates and better fluctuation in terms of the Chinese foreign exchange. So it's more really pushing forward step by step in a calculated pace the liberalization and marketization of all the economic factors.
Marketization, the key word. Thank you so much. I'm afraid that's all we have time for. Panel discussions are always fun. Now I'm going to thank our guest, Guan Xin, who's been covering the two sessions for us, and as political economist LAURENCE BRAHM, as well as Professor LIU BAOCHEng, who is a professor from the University of International Business and Economics.